Tim, how you doing? Tim Maat. Remember me from Wayne State? We were roommates briefly. Wayne State Law School. Wow, what a time that was for me. I had gotten so depressed. I'm not blaming anybody, but I just got depressed from so many years of college, and then starting law school was like, oh no, here we go again. Another 3 or 4 years of drudgery. Really, it just didn't. I was so down and out at the time. I just couldn't go on, and that's why I left law school and came out here to California, where I've been coming and going from ever since then. And I just apologize for my behavior. It's kind of embarrassed you, I know that. Embarrassed me. Put you in a difficult spot. And forgive me for what I had become there. I just kind of, it was like the lowest point in my life, it really was. And then after that, I briefly stopped back in Grand Rapids as I drove to California. When I got to California, I stayed around for a few days, few weeks and months. And then I got a call from Grand Rapids from a friend who told me one of our mutual friends had committed suicide. So at a low point to another low point, I came back to Michigan for the funeral. And that was 1990, fall of 1990. Might have been November. And so I came back here to California, then I went to Costa Rica after an earthquake there. I did disaster relief. And stayed there for half a year. I taught school after doing disaster relief for the CRC, or CRWRC. From there, after Costa Rica, I came back to California, starting to realize my true calling, being mission work, Christian work for the church. And in '92, I did another mission trip to the Philippines, also with the CRC. And also I started working on a teaching degree. Actually, after that, I came back, I just briefly did a social work internship. So I was thinking about a master's in social work, thinking I could help people that way. I wanted to help people. The law didn't fulfill that. But social work didn't either. The guy I worked with, he just was not, we were not compatible. And we were antagonistic, as a matter of fact. So I left social work, went back to Michigan with the intent to go to Calvin Seminary. Started Calvin Seminary for a year, for a semester. Dropped out of Calvin Seminary after a semester. And then started taking education classes. I figured I'll be a teacher. So I stuck it out 2 years of the education in English, got another English major. Did some student teaching at Holland Christian Middle with Bob Cool. I think you're from Holland, right? So you would know. I don't know if you were there when Bob Cool was around. Maybe he's still there. And I did my semester of student teaching there in Holland. Finally decided, and then I decided, maybe I'll do some mission teaching work. Teaching as a mission. I was looking at Hungary as a position with our church, CRC, denomination. But at the last moment, I was actually in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for the summer, and I was trying to start to raise funds for the mission work, mission teaching in Hungary, and you have to raise your own funds for it. You don't get paid for it. And then I got a call from this guy in California who was a friend of our family and part of our church out there in Bellflower. And he said, well, he was teaching. He had just started teaching at a high school in Coachella. You might know the name Coachella. Now it's famous for the music festival. But actually that music festival hadn't even begun at that time in '94. He said there's a position open for an English teacher. So I flew out there. Actually, I flew out there. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I flew out here, stayed a few days with this friend, and interviewed with the principal. And I got hired for the job. The principal actually was leaving, though. I mean, he didn't tell me that, which was strange. He was a white principal, which is important that I mention that because it's relevant. And he was a retired Air Force commander who had become a principal. He hired me, and I took the job, went back to Jackson on the plane, and then drove out. My friend, this friend of our family had bought a house, brand new house out there. And so I lived in one bedroom. I stayed in the house with him. And it was a nice house. I had a pool. I also had my dog with me, Lola, at the time. She had been with me since '92. After returning from the Philippines, I got a dog, golden retriever, and I named her Lola. She stayed with me till until 2007 actually. Great dog. Started teaching there. With my friend, after 1 year, he got fired without cause, not for a reason. They call it non-reelection without cause. They just say, well, he doesn't fit here for some reason. We're not going to give him a reason. And they do that often just to save money, because the first 2 years you're called a probationary teacher. You get paid less. If you make it past 2 years, you become a tenured teacher, and that's a big difference. It's very hard to, much more difficult to fire you after you're tenured. You get paid more. So it's pretty much a permanent position for life until you retire, unless you commit a felony or something. It's the way they do it here in California. But principals will just take probationary teachers for 2 years, chew them up, spit them out, and get some more probationary teachers just to save money. So they did that to Jim after his second year. I stayed a second year. I didn't know if I even wanted to stay, but I decided to leave after that second year because I was still not satisfied that I was fulfilling God's call for my life. So, once again, I came back to Michigan. After my second year there in Coachella, I left '96. I also took an Africa trip. At the end of that second year, June of '96, I went to Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, did some safari work, passed out some Bibles, and kind of called it a mission safari trip. And then I came back, and I found out my friend had died in a car accident. This guy, a friend of our family from Belfast, he was on his way to a church conference up in the mountains, a youth pastor conference, with 2 or 3 other people, and I think at least 2 or maybe 3 died in that accident, and maybe 1 survived. I came back, and the funeral was just a few days after I returned. I attended the funeral. There were 2 ceremonies, one down in Coachella, one in Belfast, and then I went back to Michigan, and this time I stayed in seminary for a year. Completed Greek and Hebrew, and not all of it, but a lot of it, and a few other the seminary courses and some of the prerequisites. Then I transferred to Fuller Seminary and stayed at Fuller in Pasadena for 3 or 4 more years. Around 2000, I was winding up my MDiv and also starting my own ministry, Mustard Seed Ministries, and doing a lot of street ministry and online evangelism. And that's what I've been doing ever since. Just ministry, Christian ministry, evangelism. Trying to bring the good news of Jesus Christ to all the people around here, Southern California, and also online to the world. So everything turned out for the better. I think Christian ministry is for the better in my case. I think you can do Christian ministry in other careers and jobs as well, and professions. You can do it as a lawyer there. I see that you're part of the legal operation in West Michigan, one of those, I think, if I saw correctly. And so, I just wanted to touch base with you, get a little bit off my chest from all that.